Now, social media, it's important to note that it's really just a new form of old media. Now, some of you guys, maybe some of you guys, and even for me, I was pretty young when these things, became part of our consciousness. But I can also remember a time, before cell phones, before having phones in our pockets, and certainly before having smartphones, such that we had this screen and access to all of these things. Right? I can remember before and after, although it's difficult sometimes. Okay? But it's really just a new form of old media. It's the transmission, the mass transmission of ideas, of culture, of advertising. Now, social media makes this interactive, right? This makes it interactive now. So not only are ideas coming through, and this was the way for hundreds of years, ideas would come through printed materials, right, through books and papers, right? Then it came through the radio, and it was just audio. Then it came through television, so you had audio and visual, right? Now it's interactive, such that a message can come and you can also send a message back, right? Which makes this better suited for what? Better suited for business, for the most part. And the internet is primarily a marketplace. It's primarily a system that needs money like all other systems, right? It's a place of business. And there are things that we are consuming, we think, for free, but usually in those cases, we are the product. We are being sold, and our information and our time is being sold. Now, the fact that this is interactive, the fact that this is also suited for business, the old media companies, many of the old media companies, the ones that could adapt, and then also new big businesses have invested heavily there, right? Facebook and Twitter are not just some loose public squares where we all show up and we get our little username and we can type messages as if we're all equals. Of course, these are big money interests who are involved in this forum as well. Now, with that comes new technology. As mentioned, smartphones is the broadest category, and I use my smartphone much more than I use my laptop, for example, right? But in general, technology, I saw one of my cousins had a watch, had an Apple Watch. Like these things, more and more they're putting these networks, these forums, these social media networks in our pockets. And the businesses, or the game is, and there's other technology and other research being done to help this, to aid this process. They're trying to put our eyes on that social media at all times, right? They're trying to figure out how do we keep our eyes and our fingers on the screen, which is what is called, I've heard the phrase a lot recently about the attention economy. That big businesses, how do we keep people's attention? How do I make sure, if I'm a businessman, if I'm trying to sell you something, how can I buy your attention? How can I buy your attention? How can I make sure that your eyes are going to see what I'm trying to put in front of your eyes? How are you going to consume it? And so one dynamic that's related that we need to consider is that we consume more content than ever before. And I hate that word, content, right? It doesn't even imply that there's any value to it, it's just content, just stuff. Basically, it's a fancy word of saying stuff. We consume more content than ever before. You can have a job, you can have a career as a content creator. Just create content, just stuff. Just create stuff that'll bring people to this website. 2, this social media popularizes basically now global forums where anybody can speak and be amplified, right? Old networks and power structures, like I said, they're competing in this, in this space, and there's new power structures that are rising to compete in this space. Those old power networks are better suited because they have the money and they have the access to co-opt some of these new power structures. But basically, it's a space now where people can organize. But like with democracy in general, people can organize for haq, people can organize for truth, but they can also organize for batil. They can also organize for nonsense, right? And this is the danger of democracy, and this is the danger of the democracy of the internet, right? Is that any idiot can tweet, but if he can get 1 million people to retweet him, then we have a very serious problem. And this is something that I'm sure all of you may have some personal connection to. I'm reminded, I live in Turkey now, but I'm reminded often, thanks to Twitter, that Donald Trump is the president of this country by tweets, usually by tweets. And it's a great example, right, of how democracy, both political and communication democracy, right, are very complicated and are not, popularity is not a value judgment. Finally, we all now are able to put out more content. Because of the public nature of this space, each of us put out, we write more, or we speak more, or we put out more stuff, right, from ourselves than humans ever, right, in history, right? With the very, small exception, specific exception of those great scholars who produced, who learned and synthesized tremendous amounts of information and then published it, right? We're tweeting everything. We're saying everything about ourselves. It's amazing when you look at the statistics for how much by us. And sometimes we feel anonymous, true or not, right? And so we act very differently with each other. Sometimes we feel famous, true or not, and so we act very differently with each other. Very strange dynamics come with the social media stuff, and so we need to watch ourselves. Finally, I'm gonna close with this as just a few takeaways, just some thoughts, that were inspired by these themes, by these tensions that are raised by social media, and things that you guys, you can take home and talk to your families about, talk to your community about, things to think through for yourself and apply to yourself as you know best, because only you and Allah know what's in your heart. That whether you publicize your speech, or whether you keep it silent, or switch that, whether you silence your speech or whether you publicize it, Allah knows is the one who knows what's in the heart. Now first, it's to return to strong foundations. I began with strong foundations, and so it's to return to those strong foundations in your worldview and in how you plan your lives. Is to strip everything away, everything you think about yourself, all of your identities, all of the nonsense that we build up and that we attach to ourselves. Forget all of that and remind yourself who you are, what is your purpose as a human being. That's number one, in all things. This is not just about social media, but always, regularly, every day. If you can do it before our salah every day, it would be very beneficial. Just stop. Before you even do the takbir for salah, just stop and remind yourself who you are and what you're here for. Freeing, that's liberation right there. If we can do that even once a day, it would be tremendous. If we can do it 5, the angels may just show up. Number 2, spend time with those that strengthen that worldview, not just with people, but with content and with apps, and surround ourselves with the information that strengthens that worldview. That worldview, not that we're trying to turn ourselves into some cult, but that it reinforces what we know to be true. Okay? And then be careful, of course, about influences that take you away. 3, practice critical reading. And with your children and with your grandchildren, practice critical reading, right? Look for the agendas, right? When you're reading something, don't just accept it as fact, even based on the source, right? You have to know why is this content reaching you? Why is this information reaching you? What was the agenda of the one who wrote it or the one who published it? Who's paying their electric bills, right? YouTube now will tell you if a channel is funded by a foreign government, but they don't tell you when that channel is funded by advertisers, right? And so we need to always know why. Why is this information reaching us? So people ask me, I'm mostly, I'm interested in political philosophy, and so people ask me, where do you get your news from? I say everybody. Learn from your enemies. I mean, honestly, I'll get more sometimes out of Fox News than I will out of MSNBC, because at least I know what Fox News' agenda is, right, in the immediate. I apologize for the footnote. 4, make a plan for how you use your internet. You should do this for your entire life and plan your day. You can be disciplined in this way, but prioritize. What are the things that you want to learn? Literally, make a list of what are the things that you want to learn. All of that information is on the internet. This is a tremendous opportunity, right? A lot of stuff is on social media. Great people are on social media. Learn those things. But again, with that comes a danger, right? And so that's why by prioritizing, we make sure that we use our time effectively. I can't tell you how many times, speaking honestly, I go in looking for something very specific, and then 3 hours later, I'm at the end of a Wikipedia rabbit hole, and I just wasted a whole lot of time. Now maybe I learned some interesting things, right? But it wasn't reflective of the priorities that I had set, going into that internet session, for example, right? Our time is still very valuable. Our time is still very valuable. And so by prioritizing, we'll be very careful. We'll make it easier to be careful about how we spend our time and be able to maximize the benefit from the internet as we're using it. 5, learn before speaking. Right? If you're someone who's debating Islam and is engaged in polemics and things back and forth with people, please learn, please study, please keep good relationship with shuyukh, with imams, such that they can check you, right, if you're wrong. Often, I know sometimes, this seems to happen to men more than women, but if we get excited about spreading this deen and arguing about debating some of these ideas, right, learn. Make sure that you have a good relationship with the shuyukh that you're learning and that you're speaking responsibly, right? That's an important thing. 6, speak online as you would in person, right? Don't talk to someone online, right, in a way that you would not speak to them as if you were in person, right? People act really tough, online. We used to call them, this is maybe before some of your generation, but we used to call them MySpace gangsters, right? People who talk way too tough, right, online because they think that there's no consequences, because again, they're typing from behind a computer screen. Now it's called Twitter fingers, or this is a phenomenon, right, of people acting differently, people acting tough. Right, online, don't be that guy, please. Speak with adab. Speak as if we were in a living room together, right, as guests in someone else's home. We would speak politely, we would speak gently. And finally, the last piece is to not let virtual community replace a real community. It can be a real thing. I know it can be a real thing, and I might make this point a little more softly in Nebraska or in Iowa, where Muslims may be few and where their spiritual community may be mostly online. Of course, families like that exist. We're in LA right now, and this is a little different, I think. Do not let virtual community replace real community, whether that's spiritual or political. Politics is still local, right? You want to do something, maybe your tweets help, maybe changing your profile pictures help, but you build locally. Politics is still about local power, right? Spiritual community, especially in Islam. I can't speak to every religious tradition, but especially in Islam, spiritual community is local. Spiritual community is the masjid. It starts here, and it's global. Our ummah is a global thing, and I'll be the last person to diminish, the idea or to understate the importance of ummah, in our thinking, right? And this international, this global vision, right, of who we are as a community. But our local communities, this is where it is, right? It's being here, it's praying in Jama'ah, it's praying, of course I say that, I know that I was a few minutes late for Maghrib, but it's praying in Jama'ah, it's praying together, it's being together, it's breaking fast together, it's giving together, it's spending time together, it's learning together. Okay. And so with that I'll end, inshallah. Thank you for your patience. These are just some thoughts. Anything that was good was from Allah, is by the grace of Allah. Anything wrong was from myself, and I ask you to forgive me for these mistakes. Ya Allah, we thank you for everything. Ya Allah, we turn to you. Ya Allah, please accept our worship. Please accept our actions. Please accept our intentions. Everything that we intended to do for your sake, and please allow us to do more. Please, Ya Allah, please make us better through those things that we've done, and please use us for the best things, and accept us as your awliya. Amin ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.